Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the story of how I hit my head. I have already filmed a part 2, but I didn't like how it turned out. I didn't like what I said. I wasn't really concise. I got kind of emotional. Ew. So I'm trying again. Hopefully this is better. I wanted to get these filmed and uploaded before I have my surgery on this week. Not related to my head. I just need my gallbladder taken out. I'm just a victim of bad timing, which sucks for me. But I just finished the other video, so I might be kind of tired. I don't know, whatever, who cares? So where I left off was I had made an appointment with my optometrist, and I was gonna go and talk to them about everything. Now at this point, I was completely bedbound. I couldn't walk by myself. I needed assistance showering. I needed someone to like give me food. I literally could not do anything by myself. And I was just in a lot of pain. And every day I was just in more and more pain, and I just kept getting worse. So we go to the optometry appointment, and my optometrist is my great uncle. And his son works there, my like second cousin or whatever, who is in optometry school. And so when he's not in school, he works at the office, and then, you know, just ping pongs back and forth whenever he can. And so I go in and I tell the story. Now, again, I have to do the whole blindfold, can't walk in. David takes me this time, and although his driving was fine this day, normally it's not fine, I'm just incredibly motion sick. I'm a puke bucket. It's like this whole ordeal. And so I go and I kind of tell them the story of what happened and what I was feeling, and you know, they have to like shut off all the lights in the room and close the blinds, and it's like this whole thing. And my cousin was taking my notes and, you know, hearing me talk about what happened. And they checked my vision, and my vision is not good. It's not like what it normally is. I had my eyes checked like just a few months ago, so they had something to work on. And my vision was not good. It was worse, and my eyes weren't doing what they were supposed to do. I don't know exactly what they were doing, because I was too busy trying not to pass out and vomit. But anyway, what my cousin essentially tells me is, this is before I saw the doctor, but whatever. He was saying how he was learning in school how, like where the eye center is in the brain and how it works and whatever. And there are specific like places in the brain of where your visual system is housed and where it's located, but all of the other like connections and all the other systems are connected to the visual system. That's how the brain works. Everything is connected to each other. But what he said essentially is the area that I hit my head and the way that I hit my head and the symptoms that I was having, am having, it's all the same. Essentially what he said happened is, when I hit my head, I broke, that's the best way to say it, I broke my visual system of what and where. And so what that means is what and where something, oh my god, I'm burping breakfast too. Just like blueberries. What and where something is in space and how it relates to other things, how it is perceived, how my brain processes that information, all of that is broken. Now, I never lost vision. I never, like, my eyes always worked, but they weren't working properly. And so, like, a scrunchie. Here's a scrunchie, right? When I looked at the scrunchie, I could see the scrunchie, and I knew that this was a scrunchie, but the way that my brain was processing that information was wrong and was broken. And also there's like so much hair in this, ew, I'm shedding, whatever. And also my brain has a hard time, I should speak in present tense, figuring out where it is in space, how it relates to like my phone, how it relates to like a pen, how it relates in relation to other places and other things, what's around it, how close or far it is, focusing, well, all that stuff. So I broke those two aspects. And essentially that's why I was having so much pain, and that's why I was super light sensitive, is because my brain was not processing these things correctly, or at all. And so it's kind of weird to talk about. It's kind of weird to describe what happened, because it's like a lot of brain sciencey stuff, and I don't really understand brain sciencey stuff, but yeah, I broke all of that. And at first my optometrist was like, you know, let's do visual therapy, let's do eye therapy, and you should be good in a few weeks. Every doctor is saying you'll be fine in 2 weeks, you'll be fine in 2 weeks. And so essentially what vision therapy is supposed to do is you put on these glasses and you do these certain activities or whatever, and it is supposed to retrain your brain to think the way that it's supposed to think, and to see the way that it's supposed to see, and to process that information the way that it is supposed to, the way that it is meant to. And so that's how we fix the problem. On top of this, of like the processing, my eyes themselves were not working correctly, like the muscles. My eyes were like they weren't working together, they were working apart from each other, and they were going against each other, and that was also causing some pain. So these two elements of processing and muscle, I would do the eye therapy, and that's gonna fix the problem, is what we came to the conclusion. And so we started doing that, and again, he's like, and this was like the first week of August, I think. My birthday is September 10th, Virgo. And I asked, I was like, am I gonna be fine for my birthday? Because I had all these plans of stuff I wanted to do. And he said, yeah, you should be. I was like, cool. He said, I don't see why not. I was like, all right, cool, that works. That didn't end up happening, but alas. So we do the eye therapy, and with the first week, we do it every single day, just to see what I can handle, just to see what happens. Now, I was not at a point to do the actual real therapy. So the real therapy is you put on these glasses and you walk on this like slanted balance beam back and forth, and then you do these other visual things. And that's the therapy that fixes it. I could not do that. I was not at a place to do that. I couldn't walk. That would have just really, really wrecked me, made me really, really sick. Spoiler alert, I was still really sick. But so we had to get my brain in a position in my body in a position to where I could handle the actual therapy. So what this looked like was me having on these like special glasses. They distort things, make things look funky. And then the tech that was working with me, her name was Sarah, she's great. She would do these different activities. And this was kind of a learning curve for everyone in the office because no one had ever seen anything like this. My cousin was especially like kind of excited to see it because he was in school. He's like, oh, this is like an exciting thing. I was like, I'm glad I can be your guinea pig. But everyone was kind of learning on how to deal with me and how to deal with this, and how dark we need the room to be so that I can do what I need to do and be comfortable and whatever. And at first we started with covering one eye at a time, and then I would have we used pinholes, and so essentially it covers your entire vision except for like a teeny tiny hole in the center of your vision, and we would do one of those at a time on each eye. And then we got to a point where I would, a few days later, would get to a point where I would do have a pinhole in both eyes. Now, I said I was hurting and I was getting progressively worse before this appointment, and before we realized I needed to do therapy. Boy, let me tell you, shit started popping off after I started therapy. It got so much worse. My pain got so much worse, and it was so much more intense. And each time I had a pain, I thought this is the worst it gets. From the beginning, I thought this is the worst it gets, and it just kept getting worse every single time. And that's exactly what happened. And so we wanted to do therapy every single day, and I was doing the thing where I'd wake up in the middle of the night and vomit and feel sick or whatever. And then by Thursday, I was supposed to, on that Friday, so the Friday I was going to have my eyes rechecked and see if it helped my vision at all, and see kind of how things were going. And I was supposed to have therapy before that and then go to the appointment. And that Thursday night, I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I cannot take it anymore. This is the worst pain I have ever felt. I can't do it. It was bad. And so I need to catch my breath. I'm out of breath. And so I didn't go to therapy, but I went to the appointment. And again, every time I go, I still have to have the blindfold, and I'm very, very sick. This is true to this day. I still need to be escorted into places with my blindfold on because I can't use my eyes, and it's so bad for me to be in the car. I'm like taking a cat to a vet or something. It is the worst experience. I get so motion sick. I still use my bucket. Like, this is happening to this day. Might I add. So keep this in mind. And every time I have to walk in somewhere on my blindfold, everyone thinks I'm crazy. Like, I look crazy every time, but whatever, let's throw it back. And so we checked my vision, and it's a little bit better. My vision did improve just a little bit in between the week. but it's still not great. I'm still not where I need to be. And so he's like, okay, well, since every day is too much, let's lessen it to twice a week. So you're just gonna do this, you're gonna come here twice a week and do this therapy. I was like, all right. So that's what I started doing. And once again, I'm still in pain and nothing is getting better. I'm not feeling better and nothing is happening. Eventually we get to my birthday. Nothing's better. I'm still in the exact same situation. I'm just listening to audiobooks. I'm trapped in my bed. I'm getting super sick every day. It's all happening. And I had found out actually at this point, I had asked my doctor, my optometrist, I was like, why am I getting so sick in the middle of the night? Why is this always happening? And he said, well, and it got worse after I started therapy. I mean, it was bad before, but it got worse after. And he said, well, that's because when you sleep at night, that's when your brain like processes all of the information from the day. That's when it kind of sorts everything out and kind of deals with it, because your brain doesn't shut off when you sleep, but it has more time to like do what it needs to do. And because I broke everything essentially, it was really hard for my brain to process everything. So especially when I'd have therapy or I would do something maybe it was like too much or I wasn't supposed to, it would really cause my whole system to kind of like freak out. And that's why I'd wake up and get nauseous and all this stuff. And so then my birthday happens and I'm not better. And my optometrist was like, we need to ramp this up because you're not getting any better. I was like, I know I'm not getting any better. So he takes over my therapy. The tech's no longer doing it, and he speeds things up very quickly. And we would like try something new and then let my brain get used to it for a week, and then we would try something else new. That was with the tech. Now he's like, can you do this right now? Okay, cool, let's move on to something else. So we really sped up the process. And by like the middle to end of September is when I was able to move to the actual therapy. That's when I was able to move to the therapy room, be on the bench and walk, and that's when we were able to actually start the real therapy. And so we started doing that. And at this point, so I don't know if I explained this in this video, but essentially what I had done to my brain whenever I hit my head is I broke all the systems of like the processing and the muscles in my eye. Like I just broke everything. I didn't damage anything because everything that happened can be reversible through therapy or through other means. So nothing is permanently damaged, but I heavily broke it. And the best way that I can describe what happened and the best way I can describe how it works is, you know, when like someone gets in a car crash or a car accident and they have to relearn how to walk. And it's like their physical muscles have to relearn and their brain has to connect with their legs to relearn how to walk. That is essentially that's what happened to me. That is the exact same thing that happened to me, except with my eyes and with my visual system. So it doesn't look as dramatic or as traumatic as a car crash, because even though I like couldn't move for a while because it wasn't working properly, but like I looked pretty much fine. That's not true. That's not what happened. So I'm essentially having to relearn how to see and relearn how to think. And I have to teach my eyes. I have to fix those muscles. And so it's the exact same process of someone not knowing how to walk and having to relearn it. That exact same thing is happening with me, which is like really weird to think about, really crazy to think about, but whatever. So, everyone is still like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks at this point. And I'm getting really tired of hearing 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And then eventually I go see a sports medicine doctor in the middle of October or beginning of October, because my friend Bonnie works with her and she was like, I think you should go see her. Like she deals with concussions because of sports. I was like, that makes sense. And so I went to go see her. Now I had been trying to get into a neurologist, but neurologists, they're like so filled up in Knoxville and everywhere. And one of them didn't want to see me. They said I didn't qualify. It's like, ma'am, I literally, my brain's broken. What do you mean? But whatever. So we went to see the sports medicine physician and we tell her the entire story and we tell her like what I'm doing with the visual therapy and like how I broke it and like all that stuff. And we go through everything. And also at this point, I was having pretty bad cognitive problems. I couldn't handle a conversation for more than like 10-15 minutes at a time. I was having really bad memory issues. I was not working well. Nothing was working the way it was supposed to. And this is where I say I have to relearn how to think, because I essentially, we kind of determined with the sports medicine doctor and everything, is essentially what happened to my eyes and my vision and my seeing. Same thing happened with my thought process system. And then I also asked her, she was very nice, I love her, I see her pretty regularly. I asked her, I was like, what do you think the timeline is for this? Because everyone keeps telling me it's gonna be 2 weeks and then I'm gonna be fine. And I don't feel fine. I'm not any better, really. The only thing that had improved at this point was, instead of just laying in bed and listening to audiobooks all day, for an hour at night, I could color. That's the extent of how much better I got. And if I was like really desperate, I could come get a snack, but I still couldn't do anything. And she was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is not the answer you probably want to hear, but this is true. Your life is not gonna start over again until a year after you hit your head. I was like, you're right, that's not the answer, but it was more realistic, and it gave me a more realistic expectation of how long this is gonna take, how much work is gonna have to happen, and like how much time is gonna have to, you know, be on my side. And she said time is my best friend, is still. And that with the intense therapy that I'm doing and time, my life will not start over again until a year after I hit my head. We also determined at this point that, I mean, I had post-concussion syndrome. I was diagnosed with that at the end of July. And essentially the post-concussion syndrome was working against the things that I had broken, and kind of feeding off each other to make things worse. And so as time went on and my post-concussion syndrome kind of got better and lessened or whatever, then my brain could really work on the stuff that was broken. So that's what we determined. And I was like, whenever I heard a year, I was more relieved, honestly, because again, it was more realistic. I could plan, because there was a lot of things that were like, oh, are you gonna be able to do this? Are you gonna be able to do that? And at that point we could say, I can't do anything until July of 2022. Everyone around me was heartbroken and really sad for me, which, yeah, they should have been, but I was more relieved to have a realistic expectation and just know what was gonna happen and what was to come and how long it was gonna take and all this stuff. And so one thing the sports medicine doctor said was I needed to get as much exercise as I could. Now, I couldn't get my heart rate above a certain limit, because then it's just too much for my brain. So I have an Apple Watch, I wear my Apple Watch, and I track my heart rate whenever I do things. The first time we went for a walk after that meeting, or after that appointment, and my dad took me, and again, I have been in my bed this entire time. So from July, August, September, and October, 4 months, I have been in my bed. I hadn't moved. My legs, my muscles hurt so bad because they weren't being used. It felt like my body was just breaking down, essentially. And the first walk we went on was to like the end of my driveway, and then maybe 3 houses down, and then we turned around. And when I came back, my legs were shaking. My legs were quaking. Like they were so weak. And so we started doing a little bit of exercise. We would just go on tiny walks, keep my heart rate at the limit that it needed to be at. And we started working on that. Another thing that happened at this time was, obviously I'm very depressed. Like, there's no way around that. Obviously I'm very depressed. I'm very sad about my situation. I'm literally missing out on life. My body doesn't work. My brain doesn't work. I don't feel like it is my brain because it's not doing what it needs to do. I'm just laying in a fucking dark room all the time listening to books. Like, I don't even like books. Life sucked. It still sucks, but like, it was horrible. And I was depressed from that, obviously. And one thing the doctor said was, you know, your brain being depressed also has an effect on your recovery because it's too busy doing things. You know, there's a lot I had to handle, and it needs to have all the energy that it possibly can on recovering. And if you're sad, that's taking away that energy, which, like, no one was blaming me for being sad, obviously. And so we were trying antidepressants to like just not have the brain have to spend energy on that. We can just use the medicine, and to deal with this, the brain could focus as much as it can on recovery. But none of those medicines worked for me. The problem is if a medicine says that it may have the side effect of blurry vision, dizziness, whatever, my optometrist was saying how it will have an effect on my visual system. Just because I don't feel the blurry vision or I don't feel the dizziness doesn't mean like it's not going against that part of my processing system. So I couldn't take a lot of those, but I was exercising more, and in December, I kind of hit this, and I was able to do a little bit more. Like, I could play some Sudoku puzzles like on paper. That's pretty much it. I just still haven't been able to do a lot, but I was able to do like a little bit, and I was noticing a little tiny bit of progress. What I was still having a really hard time with, and I still do now, is hand-eye coordination things. Not necessarily like catching, like I cannot, don't throw something in my face, don't throw something in my face at all. Like it's gonna be very painful. But I was like painting David's nails, and the hand-eye coordination to like take the brush, put it on the nail, and like all that stuff, it just made my head explode. And I don't know how to, it's really hard for me to describe how everything feels like, because I've never had my brain not work before. So I don't know, and not a lot of people haven't had that happen, but what it felt like was like two opposite, like the same side of a magnet, or opposite, I don't know how magnets work, but you know when you put two magnets together and like they don't work, that's exactly what it felt like trying to paint David's nail. It's like it didn't want to connect, and it was so hard for me to see that. And I still have a struggle with that. It's a big thing that I have a problem with. I can't cook, can't like chop things. Don't give me a knife. That'd be so dangerous. I also, anything that requires me like seeing, can't really do at all. But I also can't do anything with my hands, and so I'm now at a point where I can load the dishwasher. But if I load the dishwasher, that's all I'm doing for the entire day. I'm laying in bed and I'm not coming out for the entire day because loading the dishwasher takes like so much out of me. Same thing with these videos, because I don't know how to fucking work my phone, and so like I have to look at myself, and like screens are bad, whatever. But another thing that like is not, it's not true, but it's the way I think about it, is like I'm having cognitive issues, and I don't have a disability. I don't, like, everything is gonna be reversible. Like I'm gonna get my brain back, but it feels like I have a temporary cognitive disability because of the way that I think about things and I process things. It doesn't work well. So yeah, that happens. So in December, I was in a really good place because I had felt like I got somewhere with my recovery. I felt like things were starting to look up. I was exercising. I was able to go on a 10-minute walk, which is like, oh my God. And one time I did like 15 minutes. I think one time I did almost 20. Like that is so big, especially coming from where I was. And I was so happy. I was moving. I was starting to feel better. I had this mantra in my head saying the only way out is through. And that's like what I kept saying, like the only way out of this is just to get through it. The only way for me to get out of this situation that is so torturous and miserable is just to get through it, to do this recovery and to get out. And I was in a really good spot. I was in a really good place. Cognitive, it's not working. And I was ready to like take on the next step of my recovery. I'm still doing therapy. That's constantly been happening. But I was ready to like maybe do some physical therapy, do some cognitive therapy. I was really ready. And so I had an appointment with the sports medicine doctor to really dig in and talk about this and see what the next step was. And I was so excited for the next step because that means I'm going places, I'm getting there. And also it meant like, I only had 6 more months until I hit my goal, until I hit my timeline of July, until my life started over. Like I only had 6 months. My mindset really changed, and when it changed, I really started to do a lot better, very quickly. But then, this isn't really part of the story, but then my gallbladder started breaking, for no reason, really, just maybe because of all the medication I was on, or it just decided to, and since my gallbladder has been messed up, once again, my body doesn't have the energy to focus on recovery, and so I have taken quite a few steps back in my recovery, and my mental health is taking quite a few steps back, but I'm getting my gallbladder removed this week, and so hopefully once that's out and I recover from that surgery, we can pick it up and I can be back to where I was in December. The only thing I'm worried about now is that because it's been like 2 weeks of regressing, or not 2 weeks, 2 months of regressing, that the July date that was what's gonna happen is gonna be pushed, which sucks. But yeah, and like because of all of this, obviously my life has completely changed. My life plans have completely changed. This time, like I was supposed to already plan on like having applied to grad schools, and I was gonna go through the interview process and select one, and then in August of this year, I was going to move and start my grad program in 2022. That's not happening. Very clearly, I can't fucking think. I can't like use my eyes. How am I gonna go to graduate school? So that's been pushed back at least a year. hopefully I can revisit that, you know, next winter, which is really disappointing and sad because I had all these plans of all these things I wanted to do, but yeah, whatever. That's not on the top of my list of things to be sad about. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. So overall what happened is the easiest way to think about it is when I hit my head, I broke my visual and cognitive processing systems. And so essentially it's the same thing as when you get in a car crash and someone has to relearn how to walk, their muscles and their brain has to relearn how to connect, to work together and to do it. That's the exact thing that's happening with my eyes and with my like thinking and cognitive ability. I'm having to relearn how to operate those things. My brain's having to relearn how to do all that. That's the footnote. I'm really tired. My head hurts. I need to go lay down, but maybe I'll do another video of like how I have felt emotionally during this entire time. I don't really want to talk about that because ew, I'd cry, but I don't know, who knows. If you're interested in my like journey, who the fuck am I for saying that? If you're interested at all, on my channel I post like weekly updates of what happened that week, how I'm feeling, and it's really just like a way for me to document my experience so that I can look back on it because I don't really feel my progress that much. So it's just a way for me to look back and say, oh yeah, I wasn't able to do that this week. Now I'm able to do it regularly, whatever. If you're interested, you can watch it. You don't have to. Again, it's mainly for me. But yeah, thank you for listening to my story and appreciate your brains. They do a lot and it really sucks when they break. And watch your head when you get into cars. It's the moral of the story. Okay, I'm gonna go take a much needed nap. Goodbye.